Dun, dun, dun,
Oh,
dun,
you can
dun,
set
dun,
this one
dun,
to
dun,
play.
I don't
dun,
want
dun.
to.
Oh, I see.
Let me hit record. And all right.
You like Uzobuco, try that the next trip.
Well, there we go.
We have
I
had
think
it for years.
is that what I had out there?
Well, we bought it from him at the market the one time.
Oh, all right.
Last
What did we
year when
have out
went
there?
out there, you had special.
Steve
You-
had
you and Amy.
Alfredo, didn't
You and Amy.
All right, guys. I'm going to say hi.
Hi.
Hi. I'm Scott from International Computer Solutions. This is the San Carlos Computer Club. It is Tuesday at 10 o'clock, and we're starting just by the skin of our teeth because I just walked in the door. Everything is set up. I have not pulled up our document yet, so let me see if I can get that on the screen here. We've got Jim and Bill and Cheryl with me here in Tequilas. Nobody has joined us online quite yet.
I have.
Bill has joined us online.
And I didn't see your email this week. Did it come out?
Yeah.
You got it, huh? All right.
It did come out.
Okay.
Yes, there was something.
Oh, well.
There was one last night and then one
You're
this
just out of
morning.
the loop, Jim.
Huh?
You're out of the loop.
Hey,
You didn't show up
Chester's
last
with
week,
us.
You're off the list.
Well, I
Welcome,
came
Chester.
earlier. I was here at 8.
I think we missed you last week, and you're muted now, Chester.
Chester's. Hi,
All right,
Chester.
just click the mute. Yeah, I was ill for the most of December, so I'm just getting back into the swing of it.
Oh, we're sorry to hear that. I'm glad you're getting better, though.
I'm fine.
I'm turning up the gain on this microphone. One of the things that I've noticed is the YouTube recordings have been a little lacking in volume.
You get feedback.
I don't know.
Have you got your mic?
Testing, 1,
Not in the
2.
meeting.
Oh, you're not? Oh, I guess not.
Don't
Jim
tell me.
Are you muted?
Oh, it's Jim. Jim's not muted.
I'm not, sorry.
Sorry, you're right. I'm not.
Dun, 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 dun.
There he is.
Okay, awesome.
Just be quiet,
I'm gonna
James.
try turning this back up. Yeah, you're not allowed to speak in this meeting.
You know American Sign Language? Yeah?
Who said you could turn on your microphone? What is going on? There we go. There. Okay. I'm going to give it a 14 decibel gain, and hopefully that will cover the microphone for all of us in this room. And I've got the document up now. What I affectionately call the document of possible topics. This I fill up with things I think would be interesting. If you guys show up and you're not interesting, then I've got something interesting we can talk about.
We are interesting.
We're always.
Whether we're interested or not.
There you go. All right, now we're getting... Jim, you got to turn your microphone on. Or we're all living in a vortex. You got to turn your microphone off and speak up for my microphone.
Gotcha. I will remember that.
So the document of possible topics, I've left at the top of it the same 3 things that's been there for a while. The Bill of Digital Rights, I'm happy to discuss that at any time with anybody that wants to contribute or has questions. The bed and breakfast is open for business, and we're getting reservations every day. So if you're interested in Alaska and you mention San Carlos, I will give you a 10% discount. But get your reservations in quick because we fill up quick. Alaska has millions of tourists every year, and if you don't get in now, you're waiting until next year. That's right.
Mostly Germans.
Oh, they're from all over.
Yeah.
And then the third thing is the new Smartphones for Dummies 2. This is a new seminar that I would like to do sometime this year that's kind of an update to the one I did 5 years ago. At the bottom of this document, I've continued to add topics and questions that I thought were relevant to this, and I invite you to do the same. I just cut and pasted into our next document of possible topics so it continues to grow, or they get answered, or they get eliminated from being a good idea.
So what? You tried to game the cow plop?
I'm not done yet.
Oh, sorry.
Jeez, what are you doing reading ahead?
I had that problem.
Are you
in school.
educated or something? Who said you should show up prepared?
I just read it now.
You know we come off a lot better on the fly than we do when we prepare.
Yeah, but if somebody doesn't ask a question, you go on at length.
Okay, but,
Yeah.
No.
but Scott, while you're on the
Okay.
topic of the phone, I thought of one the other day, and I'm going to mention it now because I'll
Oh,
forget
good,
again.
good. I let
Okay.
me get down to where I
So-
will add it.
Remember where we were with the 1-800s in the USA and Canada are different in Mexico.
Yes.
And that's the one, and you need to share those things. And the use of the plus. WhatsApp and a whole bunch of them really want plus. Sometimes they want +1. And if people keep getting a busy signal, change the way you dial. Because I have 2 women in our group that have been trying to reach each other all week and the calls aren't going through. And I said, okay, and even with mine, if I try to reply to something, it'll say this number is not in service. If I actually go into the contact and try to phone it, it's got the plus on it, and it seems to go just fine. So there's something really screwy with that damn plus.
Okay, and just for this moment,
Yes.
the plus indicates that the country code is coming next.
So it's +52 or +1,
Yeah,
because with the country code for Canada and
is +1 because you're the
USA,
51st state.
Yeah.
And
Careful, Andy.
I told somebody yesterday, the
You're-
next person that says that to me,
Your home state is sort of,
I know
surrounded by us.
I don't know what I'm talking about.
You're
I'm
more
more likely
Canadian.
another province
Yeah, I was
than
gonna
I am. a
they have got that out there. They
Oh.
want California, Alaska.
Pretty soon you're going to have a
Maine.
choice. Canada or Russia. Take your pick.
You know, if you pick the right states, they might just go along with it.
I know.
There's a list out there.
Yeah.
I was surprised Colorado didn't make it. It's in the east and in the west. It's Washington, Montana, down to
Yeah.
California.
Anyway.
Mountain zone is in the
So-
center of the country.
I'm sorry to generalize like that because I understand that Canada's telecom industry grew up at almost the exact same time the United States telecom industry, or at least modernized at the same time,
Right.
and they use the same the same country code, so it's a North American but not Mexico. How do you refer to that one? Because you have to dial 1 to get to Canada, don't you?
I never dialed.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you dial
That's
Canadian
her job.
area codes exactly the same way you dial U.S. area codes.
Are we still calling it dialing?
Yeah,
Oh,
I guess we are.
That's
That-
it.
We-
Yeah.
We're showing you age, dear.
And-
Yeah,
and-
you-
Our
and-
grandchildren don't
Touch
touch that word.
tone. Wait, what do we say?
And when you're doing video on your
Punch in.
camera, you're filming.
Gracias.
You're filming, yeah, for a film.
Or-
You're,
But yeah, what would you call it if it
Recording.
wasn't dialing?
I don't know.
Poking.
I don't know what they call it, but
Poking, yeah.
There's,
Stabbing.
you have to add a 1. Yeah, sometimes.
But you have to add a 1. You do.
See, that's a good question for these younger kids. Is
Now,
how come it's called dialing?
they're not the ones showing up for the seminar.
because it's
though.
called a dial.
If I went in and said poking, everybody would be like, "What are you talking about? You mean dialing?"
Yeah.
And do they call it dial or do they call it keyboard?
Keyboard?
No, when you're on a phone, you're putting a phone number in, you dial it.
No,
Keypad.
keypad
It's
is what
keypad.
it's called.
You're
Punching the
keying.
keypad. You're
You're
keying.
keying.
You're keying.
Yeah.
That took
Keying
long
it in.
enough.
Man, yeah, no, I bet you're absolutely right. I bet you would
It's
say
a
keying.
keypad and key in the plus sign. You don't dial.
That would fit with this generation too, because it sounds like you're doing
But
something
remember,
really
when
sophisticated.
you're doing smartphones for dummies, that's not the generation you're talking
That's
to.
right.
They're teaching it.
But you raised some questions with me. One of the things that was a standard for years around here that I haven't checked in years
Yeah.
is the plus actually took over for 00,
Yes, that's right.
right?
Yes,
And so you
so-
used to have to do 00 and the
To
country
get out
code.
of the country.
That's right. And I don't know if that's still relevant. I don't know if you can still do 00. I don't know if you can do the replacement 800 numbers anymore.
I don't know either.
Yeah,
But we
so-
You
can
do
find
zero
out.
zero on your phone.
You can still use it on your landline?
Yeah, you have to because there's no plus.
Oh, that's a good point. I didn't even think about it like that. Yeah.
There isn't?
No.
You're right,
What?
because in the United
Wait.
States we dial 01 in
Yeah.
the country code. And in Mexico
What
we
kind of
dial
landline
00
phone
There's
in
a
the country
crosshatch. If
code.
you hit it real fast, maybe you get a plus.
No. I thought that there was a.
That's only on the
another button.
dialer.
Google your phone.
You ever do
Dial.
it on the dialer where you just
Do you have a round
on
dial?
the-
No,
On your
no,
house phone?
It doesn't matter. A round dial. Or
there
a
is no
push-button dial,
plus
it's
on
still the
on a
same
home
number.
phone line.
same numbers?
It's a different. Yeah, the letters are the same, but there isn't any extended characters
No.
on a
Trying to think
traditional
about
phone
the one
line.
we have at home. I thought there was another row across the bottom
No.
that has
well.
like the hatch sign and
Has the hash, has the asterisk, but it doesn't have a plus
and it has a
or an
zero in
equal
the
or a
middle,
minus.
Yeah.
It doesn't have a period. It doesn't have any of that
and the
stuff.
zeros in the middle,
Yeah, and the
Yeah.
zeros in the middle.
and there's something on either side.
A pound sign and something else.
Well, and if you think about at the very specifically Android phones, but in
Yeah.
general mobile phones, if you hold the zero down, it
Yes.
forms a
It,
plus.
it turns into
Yeah,
three
but
choices or something.
but you wouldn't do that on your cordless landline.
Right.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's very interesting. So I suspect 00 must still work because it fundamentally would have to if I wanted to call France on my landline. I'd have to indicate it was an international call in some way.
so
And
you must be able to use 001
yeah.
to get out of the country.
Well, actually, you'd use 00 and the country code because one is the U.S.
Oh,
To dial,
oh really? I thought one was long distance.
yeah, well, it is. It's long distance to the United States. In Canada and the United States to call long distance, it's 01 and then the country code. Like if you wanted to call Mexico, it would be 0152.
I was phoning England way back when.
So it'd
when-
be
yeah,
01, what is it, 49, something like that?
something like that.
Yeah. But for inside Mexico, and Jim is really the one that stoked up my memory of all this. It's 01 inside, like state to state. If you had to dial an 800 number, it would be 01 and the 800 number.
And isn't it different to a landline than to a cell phone? Isn't that what we first met when we were down here?
Well, that's kind of what we're talking about for
Yeah.
dialing right now. Is the
Yeah.
dialing is different from a landline, from a cell phone. Back in the day, you used to have to dial a cell code to get a cell phone.
I know.
Right, my business cards, I still have some old ones that say plus 44 or something like
Yeah.
that on it.
Oh, yes.
That's where this was born.
Yes.
Computer Club was born with, how the heck do I phone?
Yeah. Well, the computer club was before we had an iPhone,
hmm
right? We got started back in the 2000s, early 2000s.
Oh, that was before our time. Chester might remember that one, but we came on in 2012,
We
13.
were 2012,
2013.
we were 2013.
We didn't find it in 12 when we were here. 13.
So I've got documentation that goes back to
Okay.
2001,
it's in
2002.
that's
Yeah.
right. I knew there was one.
There's the numeric phone call.
Asterisk.
Right. Yeah.
You have no idea. I can't remember what the asterisk was.
So, since we're talking about the smartphones for dummies, one of the things I've recently added, and this is because of a conversation I was having with my father over the weekend,
Well, I was going to show it to him. but
we
I
are
can't think.
encouraging password managers in general. I mean, like that's considered a security technique. Is
It's
that
so much better than a piece of paper in your purse
Right.
or your wallet.
But
and
you
so-
know- okay.
It's my wife too.
And so
Oh.
I'm not bringing this up to have a discussion of the validity of password managers. I think we've had that discussion a number of times. The real question is, which ones do you trust,
Right.
and what features are you getting out of them? And so I have been using Bitwarden since LastPass fell apart. and I consider it falling apart because they're poor stewards of our information, and they didn't let us know what was going on, and they got hacked, and they allowed us to sit out there naked for over 6 months without knowing that every one of our passwords should be changed. And so I would never recommend that. That group would have to be sold to a security company that I feel is well vetted. Before I was a little suspicious when they got sold to log me in, but at least that's a remote access company. They have to be concerned about security at some point. When they were sold to a finance company, that's when we should have been really wary about what was going to happen to them, because they made the app very pretty, but they didn't make it more secure. They allowed it to fall into insecurity. Hi, Irving. Welcome. How are you doing?
So password managers are fine.
So password managers are fine. It's just a matter of which one. Like I said, I like Bitwarden. But what has recently happened, if you're a Macintosh or an iPhone user, you have watched as a password app has manifested on your desktop through updates. If you've gone to iOS 18, you have ended up with an app called Passwords. And this is basically the password app that has been ingrained in Apple ecosystem forever, but it has never been front and center for the user. It's always been in the background, kind of like somebody just keeping track of it for you. So why? I've literally throughout the years had conversations with people that are like, why isn't the password right there? No, I don't know my password. Yeah. It should be right there.
You sound like my wife.
So with this new version, I know in my heart that what they're doing is they're competing in this new landscape of password managers, and they want their users to be aware that they do not have to go find a different password manager. They've got one built in. They always have. They want to give it the kind of features that people are looking for in this day and age. And one of those features we were talking about was next of kin. And I have not had the time to do the research yet, but I thought maybe Cheryl knows from her experience dealing with Apple, and with the family stuff, if a next of kin is implied in being a family member of Apple's iCloud family share, if it's something that we pay extra for, or if it's just integrated into their new password app concept. And when I say next of kin, I hope you all understand what I mean is that when you pass away, there's some other official that can get access to your passwords.
RoboForms had that for 5 years.
All right, and there's a testimony here for RoboForms. I'm actually going to write that down here too. So RoboForms, are you paying for that?
No.
So they have a next of kin, and it's a free service.
Yes.
So you just nominate somebody
Yeah, you pick them. And
with their email.
And then you have to send. I did it a long time ago. I believe after you put them in there, you have to send them a
code.
a message, and they have to okay it, and then they'll have.
But it's through email.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
believe
that would
so.
be the connection.
Yeah, email.
In iPhone, it's called legacy
Okay.
contact.
Did you delete your
legacy
spam? You go back into spam? Or maybe you
And it
marked it
says
as not
Sarah
spam?
Thompson added on
and now it
May
would be in the
9th,
inbox?
2022.
Well, I'm in the inbox.
So
and then
on May
spam, I
9th in
can't find it either way.
2022,
Okay.
on top
Junk.
of this, and I sent her
Is there
something
another one, Junk?
as a legacy.
Junk mail, yeah.
Scott, I
And
I
have
think what I
a
sent
small
her
password
was
anecdote.
a pass
Fresh,
key
let's try fresh.
and review and add more items.
Just, and I don't know with Bitwarden. You'd think I would have figured it out with Bitwarden, but I haven't. But this is I think password managers, two-factor authentication, and pass keys should play a part in the new smartphones for dummies.
Okay, passkeys. Passkeys started showing up, and I was able to set them up on any of my financial institutions, anything of my apps that I have downloaded. I can do passkeys.
Mm-hmm.
I'm liking them, and I want you to tell me why I shouldn't.
Yeah, I am actually
A
in the
passkey,
midst of this learning right now.
No, so the passkey said to me, do you want to create a passkey? And I just clicked on it to see what that meant. And I could use a finger touch, I could use a face ID, I could use whatever. And it's my two-step verification now. So instead of having to receive an email or a text with a code, it uses my face, is what I chose. So I have face recognition on my bank accounts, my credit card apps, those kind of things. It's very convenient, and I'm hoping it's really secure. And I'm loving the fact that since we have no cell phone signal, when we take 2 steps into our condo, it's nice to know that I'm going to get my verification code and all that kind of stuff. I don't have to be
you're
connected
not
to get it.
you're
I'm not
not
relying
subject to
on
the
the cell
SMS.
Yes,
the
yes,
text
because I was
message.
having issues with that.
Mm-hmm.
It would come in after I moved into cell territory, but by then it had expired. I always think there's a hurricane or something happening.
That's Irving's reminder that we should all have our cell phones on silence during
really?
computer club.
Or vibrate or something.
Thank you, Irving, for reminding us of that.
Nobody ever phones me anymore.
Yeah, nobody I know phones. They know better. Don't call me.
So you asked about the family members. It says recommended for your family, 5 active items. And in there is legacy contact.
Oh, that's great.
Okay, location sharing, emergency contacts. I haven't shared passwords, set up a family password.
Irving, I think you might be sitting on that cable right there. We might be able to toss it out this direction, so it's just going across the table.
Yeah.
There you go.
Did you want to send me an email? I can't find it.
Okay, here. Get into.
Family
Are you in the
grocery
Meet? I mean, in the Meet program, Google Meet.
No.
Okay, so open that up, and at the top there's a bar that says search or Meet code.
Okay, first I gotta find. Do I go into Google or is this
It's called Google Meet.
tablet?
Yeah, you had it last week.
Okay. And it says,
At the top, there's a
20
bar,
subscription.
and it should say code or search. Or search
I
or
must be in
code.
a different meet.
Can I take a look?
That's probably not.
No, right here. Oh, what is that? Oh, you've got some meet scheduled. But up here, what are we doing?
Am I in the right program?
It feels like it. Yeah, you're in the right program. It doesn't say meet, huh? Well, right here, we would type in this code, RGB, EB. Hope this works. RGB, RR,
GC,
RGC,
GQB. P is
G.
Peter.
Q,
P.
P. All right. What is going on? You're in the Meet program. You're not doing a new one. You're obviously not here.
Is he in Safari? Is he in Google Chrome?
Chrome.
No, he's in Meet. But what is really frustrating is this is exactly what I did last week, and it's not working the same way. It's and people wonder why computers are so frustrating.
Yeah, exactly.
I found your email this morning in either spam or junk.
Chester's got his hand up. Did you want to contribute something, Chester?
Yes, I have an administrative question.
Okay.
There is a really small picture of the group from a camera that's next to Irvin that's taking a picture of everybody.
Yeah.
And if we could maybe move that over 6 inches, we would get everybody. But can we make that a big picture instead of a little small picture?
How's that? I should have it cycling through views.
One more, Toby?
Get rid of my picture and put it in my place. My camera's broken.
Oh, Jester, you shouldn't be in the view now. Are you sure you're looking at my view? Pin my view up.
Yes, I see you now.
Okay, and so it should be cycling through views.
Yeah, now I see everybody. The camera needs to go over a couple of inches, but it's a good view, and it's nice to see everybody participating.
This is what's changed. This right here is where you pull up to put in the code.
Yeah, I couldn't find it in Google Meet either.
Hey,
No, they've moved it.
Does anybody want to tell me what the
RGB.
Any caps?
No, it
Just
doesn't
all.
matter.
RGB like boy.
RR.
With a hyphen. RR.
Oh, do you have to put the hyphens in?
Oh,
Yeah.
maybe you don't have to put in.
I don't
Uh-uh.
think you do.
Oh.
GC. Grand Country.
Yeah.
GQ.
Bitwarden. It's a freaking
GQ.
emergency
Oh, but that's
access.
after GC?
It's a
Yeah.
premium feature. You got to pay.
You got to pay
Q.
for it like
P
last
as in
pass.
Peter.
Okay.
Right?
Enter.
I'm going to make that note right here.
Just my little contribution.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Showing. Okay.
Now you're staring at yourself.
Ting ting.
Yeah, somebody's got to let me in and I'll be okay.
You rang the doorbell. I heard it. Ting ting.
Should we let Irving in?
No,
He's already in.
you're already in.
I'm too disruptive. I agree.
Who's this Irving that's trying to get in? Do we know him?
Let me block my sound.
I just muted you, but if you keep your
Oh, okay, you
speakers down, you should be good. Okay. Hey, now we're ready to start. We're only a half hour in and we're ready to start. Okay, good. So, with that in mind, if you guys have other topics, we will continue to add to this list.
I still have my password anecdote.
Oh, and of course, Bill has a password anecdote. Go ahead, Bill. What's your
I was
story?
minor IT guy in my high school, and school secretary was also one because she had to add passwords and stuff. So I sat down at her desk one time to do some work on her computer, and on the corner was a sticky note with the administrative password on it, which is the password it makes you God, basically.
Sure.
And I said, Joan, you can't do this. You cannot leave this here. So she puts it under her pad,
Under the ink
under
pad.
the keyboard, or
Under the keyboard?
the mouse pad. Yeah.
You
No,
know,
Joan, no. Anyway,
that's
classic.
where we always knew where to look in
Yeah,
school.
sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Right under the keyboard, the sticky note right next to it. I remember they gave me the password for some system that was in the school district, some mainframe that the university or all the schools had access to, as public school
Yep.
network, and the password was something very simplistic, like the mascot of the school.
Yeah.
Combined with something that was just relatively simple to
It wasn't
understand.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
It could have been. It could have been Eagles 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or in my case, it was Jays, like Blue
Yeah.
Jays for my school. And I remember thinking, well, are they dumb enough to have done this for everyone? And
Yes.
I was able to access the system as though I was coming from any one of the high schools in our network, simply because their administration was so poor. They'd used this horrible security technique. Yeah.
Somebody else come in?
Sounds like somebody. Paul's here. Welcome, Paul.
Hasn't changed his background yet.
Yeah.
Oh,
All right.
you're
So
welcome.
yeah, as other smartphone, what I was saying before is that I will continue to add this to each preceding document that I create. So this list will only be up to date as of the latest version of this document. Everything else is a draft. And I will use these topics to shape the new seminar of Smart Dummies 2.
Smart dummies for
Yeah, smartphones for dummies. That's a smart dummies. Dummy smarts for no.
Dummies
Dummy
for-
phones for smart people.
Dummies for smartphones.
Yeah, dummy phones for smart
Why don't
people
you just-
actually should be my next seminar explaining why I went out and purposely bought a stove that had no computer in it.
You just call it, shorten it up. Nice and simple. Dummies.
Dummies. Hey, dummies.
And then you turn it into a book you can sell. Dummies for smartphones.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, but as always, I've got, you wanted the cow plot
Yes.
story. Okay. So I put this note in here just so I wouldn't forget. We're at the cow plot, and there is a map, and it's been randomized, so you
Yep.
can't like look up by row and column what your numbers are because the numbers are random on this grid. If any of you have gone to watch a cow
Well, you don't
poop
want
for
number
money,
one up at the
that's
top
how it
corner.
works. Is they take a field, they break it into a grid, and if your numbers where it poop, then you win money. Very sophisticated entertainment. And so you just asking me, like, can you find our number? And we're going through these. And I'm like, I don't know. Let's see if Gemini can find it. And so I take a picture of the board and I give it to Gemini and I ask it for one of our numbers. Tell me where one of these numbers are. And it very confidently said, look at row 12 and column 16 or of the such. I'm not saying verbatim, but it gave me very specific instructions to find that it was wrong. And it did it more than once.
And totally wrong.
Totally wrong.
But-
Very confident.
Not in
Totally wrong. And I suspect I might have had some better luck if my photo had been a better photo, because we're out there, the sun's shining off of this Lona, the
Yeah.
wind's blowing it around, so there's a little fold in the Lona. It knew it was a table. I mean, it could identify rows and columns. But I suspect because there's a slight fold through the whole picture, it
And
wasn't.
varying
That's
light.
interesting.
Yeah,
So it really was trying, though.
it was trying. I wish it would have been. I started being much more specific, and it started being much more vague. It's like, well, actually, we don't see your number in here, and started beating around the bush. Basically, I think it became self-aware and
It
realized
lower
it
your
doesn't
dot.
know anything.
It lower your dot.
Yeah. But you would think that would be a very practical use of AI.
Well, I thought you were trying to predict where to put the number
Oh, right.
based on the movement of the cow and
Well, it wasn't a real cow. It was a drone cow.
what?
It's a drone cow.
What are they
I
doing with the
said,
drone?
no, I'm kidding.
Yeah. So if you're
Oh, they did have a drone out there, though. They
Yeah,
had a
taking
little
pictures.
taking pictures, and it was windy. And I couldn't think of a better example of drone technology right now because it was stable.
Yeah,
It
I
was-
know the DJI is awesome.
It was
It'll
amazing.
take up to about 25 kilometers an hour, and it just goes. Choo.
It's
The
yeah,
gust will kick it a little bit, but it's just stable.
it was amazing. They were taking these long pictures back and forth from the crowd, and our hair's blowing around
Yeah.
in the wind, and this drone is just
It is,
very impressive. A completely different world than a few years ago. Yeah, so that was my AI cowplop story. I did bring a couple of news articles that I thought you guys would find interesting. I always find your guys' story more interesting. So this is the time if you've got anything to share, Irving.
Well, I'm back to my dilemma about cryptocurrency. So in the news this week, there was a guy that was looking to, at his own expense, go through the entire landfill to find a hard drive, because that hard drive contains the address for $750 million.
Yeah. Oh,
of
it's his
cryptocurrency.
Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And he got denied.
He got denied.
I
That's
deny
right. They-
because it basically looks like an impossible thing.
Yeah.
And even if you get it, it may not be accessible. So that was interesting. It leads me back to, yes, growing. Seems like a dead end. Cartels are using it, of course, for all their finances and every other illegal, also governments and everything like that. Now it seems like our genius Musk is a big proponent of it,
Yeah.
which I find it.
Did we see that they were actually he was gonna start selling a coin? Didn't they just mint an X coin?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I don't know.
It-
Yeah.
It seems like that's just asking for regulation. You're sitting right next to the president, minting your own currency.
The whole thing defies.
Well,
Yeah, what's wrong with that?
The whole
one-
thing
the one-
defies logic to me, just like the Y2 defied logic to me, just like this whether you're a boy or a girl defies logic to me. I mean, I don't get it. And this is another one that seems to be growing exponentially, especially other currencies that are looking to get away from America, our dominance,
I
are
heard
rushing to it.
one theory that they're going to use the some of their gold in Fort Knox to buy Bitcoin, which is a big scam, because now you're converting very gray area currency into gold, and then you walk off with the gold and you get the Bitcoin. Aren't you lucky?
Yeah, I also heard that they had talked about doing a repository a state repository for Bitcoin, very similar, like a virtual version of what they do with Fort Knox, where they just hold on to it and
Well, that-
at such a high percentage that it
They have it in
controls
I don't know,
the
Congress
value.
or whoever it is, they want to buy Bitcoin right now
Mhm.
and deposit it. Mint.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think, I mean, what gets complicated is that the Bitcoin mechanically is not a bad idea. A decentralized currency that no government can control. It's not a bad idea.
Providing it could be monitored. You lose your key, you lose your money.
Well-
that's what I can't get.
Well, and monitored is the wrong word because it is totally monitored. I mean, everything that happens on the blockchain is public. That's what gives it value.
What do you do if you lose your code?
You
Well,
cry.
what do you do if you lose your wallet?
What do you do if you lose your hard drive?
Right? Yeah. I think these are good questions because the answer to some of these are like what do you do if you lose your code? Well, you should be treating it like your wallet. If you lost your wallet, you wouldn't expect to recover any of that cash, and Bitcoin is like cash. So if you've been, irresponsible, I lost my credit card going across the border this last time back. Hey, on a side note on that, I stopped for gas at the Circle K right there in Nogales.
Yeah.
And I had an experience that was very strange for me. I stuck my card in and pulled it out for gas, and it got mad at me, said I didn't leave it in there. And so everything canceled, and I started the transaction again, and it grabbed my card.
When you let it go.
I don't expect that from a gas
Yeah,
pump.
well,
From a gas pump, I don't expect that. I expect that from an ATM machine. But I don't expect it from a gas pump.
I'm sure that's happened. Like it holds it while it's reading it, and then it lets go
It didn't let go of it at all.
at all.
It didn't let go of it
Did
at
you
all.
lose
I
it?
had to start pumping with it locked into the machine. And I know what I did because of the way I do things. I know that I'm so accustomed to having it back in my wallet by that point that I forgot that I needed to pull it out of the machine, and
Oh,
I just
still
left
there.
it sitting in that machine.
Oh, dear.
So just a little PSA for you guys.
Yeah.
I have not dealt with a gas pump that has treated me like that until that
But
Circle
it was
K.
probably running all the numbers through the system to make sure you were you.
Whatever,
Or see what they
whatever
could
it
buy.
might be, but
Well, see
So
now.
did you get it back or did you?
no, my point is that
I left it.
because it treated me differently,
Yeah.
I forgot it in the machine.
And
And so you just drove away.
I drove away and the card was sitting in the machine.
now you.
And now the card's canceled. I'm waiting for another card.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the part
And you
that-
have to go back up to the
Yeah.
border to get it.
Yeah,
No,
I'm not going
no.
back up to the border for the credit card. And I did try calling that station. And in this modern world that we live in, I can just I was able to go to Google Map and click on the
Yep.
station, and it gave me all the details, including the phone number, which goes nowhere.
No.
The phone number goes to what sounds like an answering machine that was bought at Walmart that was never set up. I left my phone number hoping maybe they had some association with Circle
So
K
did they
in general.
cancel you or you canceled them?
Oh, I could, but as soon as I couldn't reach the
You
convenience
canceled
store, I called my bank and said, "Hey, here's what happened."
Yeah, because
it's-
the next guy up to the pump can pull it out and keep it.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
it only your bank card, or is there another person with the same?
No, it's just my credit
It's
card.
one,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's just my
Because
credit
this is
card.
the thing, if you have all your credit cards and you have another family member with the other one, both of them get canceled, and both of you have to wait for the thing to come in the mail.
Oh wow.
Speaking from
In-
experience,
Yeah, so now I have my own that does not
I
have
have
a
one
family
one
member.
credit card with my name on
And
it.
he
so-
has one credit card that only is his.
Yeah.
You have
Interesting,
other
very
ones that are
interesting.
joint. You know how you get one for your wife, or you
Sure,
get one
yeah.
for your child, or
get
whatever.
the extra card. Yeah.
That don't,
But
we don't have
at one
extra
point
cards.
we
No,
were
we don't.
we were down, I think, to one credit card because it had been canceled, and it cancels in my wallet and hers.
Yeah, that's the most inconvenient thing for me is I only maintain one credit card.
Yeah.
I scaled down my credit a long time ago.
Well, we
When you and I were younger, that's a whole story.
we did.
That's a whole story.
That's
But
it.
we recovered and had children and have lived a great life since then.
So
You
that's
recovered.
fine. But if your one credit card has another family member on it,
Well,
you're screwed.
Or you lose it.
Yeah.
Like this. Now you
Yeah.
have no credit card.
Now I have no credit card. I'm waiting for a credit card. I have done this once before in the 28 years that I've lived here, and they were able to send it to me in Mexico. So I'm waiting
yeah.
for this to show up
They,
in
it
Mexico.
will come to Mexico.
It did last time.
Okay.
I questioned it the first time and it showed up.
It's
So
not with my bank because they would not send it to Mexico.
that might be a testimony for credit unions. My credit union has always been really good to me. Alaska USA, which turned into Global Credit Union. But you know, if I was to praise my credit union, they let me borrow money to buy an Arizona car and bring it down on Mexican insurance. And I'm like, that's the kind of bank you want to bank with.
Huh.
So Irving didn't get his warning earlier to turn off his ringer. He got all of us to turn our ringers off.
Yeah.
Yeah, so again, with Bitcoin, if you were to lose your wallet, you wouldn't expect the cash
No,
to
you
be
wouldn't.
there. And that's the way that you should feel about losing your password, and you should be as responsible.
You have to have a backup of a backup of a backup.
Yeah, you have to you can't back up money. You can't photocopy your cash and
But
keep it in the back in case you
You
lose it.
could, but
Well, you could, but it's not going to do anything. And
you need a color printer.
you need a color printer.
It is called-
Jim starts rattling off the stats. If you are going to do it, you need to get this resolution.
This pressure, and maybe this. You might want to look for
Yeah.
this kind of paper.
And don't use it in the States, but use it somewhere else.
Right. No bank will
And-
take
and
it,
then-
but the vending machines, they got no problems
and
with
then,
it.
and then print $1 bills for some reason. Why would you print
Vending
$1
machines.
bills?
Grocery stores, the easiest.
Yeah.
Oh, another tip from
Another
Jim.
tip from Jim. This is our
I'm gonna start
counterfeiting
writing these
episode. What was that, Jim?
I said I'm going to start writing these down.
You're right. Yeah. You just have to go back to the YouTube video. Well, so yeah, that's I know Irving has had an issue with that. What if I forget my password? It's you are not holding money in a bank and you've lost your access to that account. You are holding money that's identified as yours because you have the password. The moment you don't have that money anymore. It's kind of like those serial numbers belong to you and no one else until you officially give them to somebody else.
And that you can't identify those serial numbers.
How big is the
It's not yours
Bitcoin key?
anymore.
Like, what's it look like?
What is this?
The Bitcoin key that you use to access your Bitcoin.
Oh, isn't it 256? I mean, I thought it was
256 characters?
well 256. Yeah, I mean that's essentially.
I don't know. I never really asked about that. Never even thought about it.
Yeah, I mean it's
It's more than 8.
oh yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yes.
No, it's absolutely more than it. The question is it 128 or it's 256? It's probably two just because it can be. But it's based on our latest encryption scheme. So we've had unbreakable encryption for a long time now, and the only thing that's possibly challenging it would be the quantum computing that's just about to start happening.
This is decaf, huh? Unless you want decaf?
No,
No.
What is that all about? Get that out of here.
That isn't even coffee.
Yeah. That's like some sick tea.
Maybe.
It's a sick joke.
Yeah,
That's what
right.
it is.
Um, all right. Well, we're gonna go away from the Bitcoin conversation because Irving's not
Oh,
with
goody.
us. So I brought a couple of news articles I thought were interesting. The first one on my list here is New York starts enforcing a $15 broadband. This is a law that the ISPs fought, and they kept getting rejected, and now they have to support it. They passed a law in New York that there needs to be a low-income tier of broadband always from all providers, and so you can apply for a $15 a month internet connection
Oh,
in
is that
New
what
York. You guys have been around long enough now to see how these scams work. I know personally in Anchorage, we watched as they increased speeds. Oh yeah, you'll have plenty of access to speed,
but you got to pay for it.
but they didn't give you more data cap. So they would cap you out at 80 gigs. 80 gigs was great when you could only do, 10 megabits a second. You'd almost never hit 80 gigs. But with 4K video and constant use, and now you can get up to a gigabit of speed now. Right? A gigabit a second? A gigabit a second? What does that translate into very quickly?
Lots.
Yeah, that means that
That's
you could
lots.
do.
Fast.
That means you could blow through that 80 gigabyte cap within a day, fairly simply. And then in Alaska, what they would do is you would buy these things they called buckets. You buy a 10 gigabyte bucket, and you'd buy that for a premium price. But it would keep you going throughout till the rest of the month, or you needed enough to the end of the month that you just went up another tier. I mean, you only had to buy 2 or 3, like 30 gigabytes, and all of a sudden you might as well be paying for the next tier.
Right.
And it was all styled to just get you to pay more money and more money for your internet. So here's New York saying you have to offer a plan at $15 a month by law. We're going to hold you legally accountable to it.
Yeah, but the thing is, how much data are you going to get with that plan?
That's a very good question. How much do you get with that? That's right. But at least it's offered, right? At least there is something out there. The other thing that brings up questions with this kind of thing is they continually report it as for low income. So do I have to justify my income to get the $15 plan?
Probably.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, why should I? I mean, if there's people functioning adequately at internet at $15 an hour, who cares if I make $1 million?
Exactly.
Oh, it's another example of supplementing, putting it onto the taxpayer.
You're absolutely right, because this comes out of federal money that's been set aside to supplement internet costs. And so if the ISPs want to have that available to them, then they have to make these plans available. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it works out. Something to keep an eye on. Says plan with download speeds up to at least 25 megabits a second. Or $20 a month for services with 200 megabits a second. So that's what it says here. New York-based ISPs can comply by offering $15 broadband plans with a download speed of at least 25 or $20 a month for 200 megabits a second. Now, you guys have been around long enough. 25 is enough.
Yeah.
25 is enough.
Oh, yeah.
25 is enough. I've got 2 kids. 25 is enough.
Well, it depends if you're streaming like games. I don't play games, but I think that's the most
Well, games are uniquely chastised for using a lot of internet, but they don't. Their download uses a lot of internet. To get the game installed takes a lot of internet. But after that, what you do on the game, playing the game, there's very little internet going back and forth. It's mostly text data. It's very light in comparison to like a 4K movie from Netflix. Also, games need to go back and forth, whereas a movie from Netflix only has to go one direction. So you can have faster speeds in one direction and slower speeds in another.
Right.
And like an economy of scale, what you're willing to pay for and what they're able to produce for you. So, Jim, did you hear that? For New York-based ISPs to comply, they have to offer either a $15 broadband plan for at least 25 megabits a second, or a $20 with up to 200 megabits a second.
Okay, that's speed though, not
Yeah.
how much data you can use.
You're right. Price increases are capped at 2% per year. So there's room for it to get more expensive.
Every year.
Yeah.
But it won't keep up with inflation.
That's lower than inflation right now, isn't it? I was thinking inflation's like 3 right now.
Trying to attain to, but not guaranteed.
No, nothing in here about a bandwidth cap. So who knows? But being New York, who knows? Maybe they don't have bandwidth caps in New York. I mean, there are states that don't have caps.
Fiber doesn't. The Mexican fiber.
No.
And neither does our Tucson fiber.
No, you're right. Here there are no caps.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Tucson doesn't have any either on the one that I'm using anyway.
The only caps I'm aware of in our local area here are on cell data. It's nothing on the land data.
In fact, Tucson, they just upped me $40. I get unlimited and a gig both ways.
Oh, that's not a gig symmetrical. Wow. Now you can be your own TV station.
Do you do a lot of upload?
Huh?
Do you do any upload? Does anybody do upload?
I do a lot of uploads, but
I
you
don't-
could imagine I would be the
Not
kind
too
of
much
person that would.
uploads, but when you're cruising on the web, you're uploading because you have to. It's got to interact,
But not very much.
but not that much. No.
But if you were live streaming, like say you're one of those people that pull your phone out of your pocket and you're instantly going up to Facebook, that's an upload, and that requires a certain capacity to be available.
The thing was, I was paying $40 a month for 200 both ways, no limit, and they came out with a special that says I can pay $40 a month, the same price for 1,000 each way, and no time limits for life. Okay, upgrade me.
Yeah,
It didn't cost a cent.
that's nice.
Yeah.
That's perfect. Yeah, we should all have as much bandwidth as is available in our areas. It should be like the ocean. It should be you're subject to whatever the environment is in, and we should always be trying to provide more of it to everybody.
Well, they said fiber here in Mexico. They said we can get 1,000 each way if we wanted.
Yeah, we just can't get it down my block.
No, not you, but I can.
Yeah.
One block over.
What's that?
Mine either.
Yeah, yours either. Yeah, it's always a big joke. Of course they're going to install it everywhere. They've got a plan to install. It's like the highway along the foothills.
There's one in front of my house.
That's right. The highway that goes in front of your house.
Yeah. Never.
I'm sorry, Irving. What was
Well,
it?
we actually have their infrastructure right in front of my house. They just never wire.
Yeah.
They won't because
Well, if it's right in front of your house, there may be a time when they're able to do
20
it.
years.
Yeah. But like my closest location is 3 streets away where Jim's connections are, and they're not going down those streets. I mean, we're going to have 4 times the population growth.
How come they wound up on your street? Chance?
I'm sorry?
How did they wind up doing the fiber down your street?
They
We-
didn't.
You-
I had moved from F to G because G has
Wait, let me answer this.
Okay.
They installed fiber optics all around San Carlos before I got here. They had rings of fiber optics, rings of dark fiber all over San Carlos because it was easy to install. It's expensive to maintain. It's expensive to have the equipment, but the fiber itself wasn't a big deal to install. And so when they were laying out San Carlos, they were laying out with fiber optics. It's the most recent endeavor. They then used the fiber optics at that time to bring communications to homes. And so the end of the fiber optic switch was your regular communications switch for a standard landline telephone. And then they ran internet connections across that years later because that's what they had in place. And as these switches have gone bad, they've had to be replaced. And when they get replaced, they have twice, 3 times, 4 times, 100 times the capacity that switch originally had, running across the same piece of fiber. And so eventually they were able to offer data across those switches as well, other than analog data. And so that's how we've ended up with neighborhoods like the Bahia, the different areas where there's always been fiber optics there, but they've been trunk lines for standard phone lines. Now they're able to offer a lot more capacity off of that
So the
switch.
key is to go run over the switch that's closest to you.
Absolutely. That is absolutely the key. Is if you went out and
Now, I'm
beat the hell out of...
suspicious. Here we got the counterfeiter slash.
Well, Jim's story is I think one of the best stories because he didn't have fiber optics near his house at all.
no, and I had moved to G. So on my street, when I moved down here, I got 15 megs.
Yeah.
And then we got 25, and I was jumping for joy when we finally got 50. Well, G, I found out, had 100 or 150 on G because it's a DSL, but I don't know the word for it. It's upped their communications.
Yeah.
So I switched over to G. I had to pay for a telephone pole
Yeah.
and the whole bit, and that went great for over, I don't know, 2 years or so. And then all of a sudden, a guy from Telmex bought a property on F way down the street where they did the whole
Yeah.
They
The whole street.
rebooted the switch with
No.
new hardware. They did new installations. All of a
That's-
sudden,
That's why you.
and I was the first house on F to get fiber.
and you did not emphasize the telephone pole enough. That you would not have had communications on that street if you had not put in your own telephone
Oh
pole.
no, that was G.
That was G.
That was G. When I
So
wanted
was
to
that for
switch-
DSL that you did that?
Yes,
Okay.
and phone line.
Yeah.
But, yeah,
So he had to buy his own phone post.
and put it on my property.
And your property spans F and G.
I'm sorry.
Your property spans from F to G.
got 4 minutes.
Yes, thank you. That's what I was actually just now looking for, is how much time we have left. How come I'm not finding
We're
that on
retired.
my
We got all the time in the
4
world.
Where we?
All right.
Why am I in a
3
hurry?
minutes.
3 minutes. So anybody out there, I'm gonna start up this other meeting so we're ready to move over to it. Chester, Paul, I know you guys are remote with us right now, and I'm gonna just stoke up the next meeting so we can move over to it
Are we ever going
quickly.
to see Paul in person?
When, did you hear that, Paul? When are you coming back to Mexico? Are you here now? You are muted now.
Nope, still muted.
Switch it up top.
There you go.
You know what? You're still having problems with your microphone.
Maybe his volume's all the way down.
He's nodding.
Hand signal.
Yeah.
Are you coming to San Carlos? Will
Yeah,
Yes.
all right.
it be this month? Yes, no
Yeah.
questions.
This
Yeah,
month.
all right.
There's like 20 questions.
Say blink once if it's January, twice if it's February, 3 times if it's March.
Well,
Okay. So where were we going with all that? Oh, I've got the meet open. So anybody that wants to join in the next 3 minutes, we can open it up to you.
How do I do that?
You need to go into another meet code, and I can give that to you now. Just do the same thing you did before. Close that meet. And then look for that icon next to your profile in the upper right-hand corner. And that should be where you can type in a code.
yay, I'm in.
Yay!
Chester's here.
Chester's here, Bill's here, I'm here. Tell me when you're ready for the code there.
Oh,
Oh no, I can't do it with you.
I closed it out, and now I haven't got the, find the,
So in the upper right-hand corner, there should be a picture of your profile, and right next to it should be an odd icon. Can I look? Let's see. Oh, you're still in the meet. So let's close that meet, and that's the icon we're looking for.
hit the icon.
Yeah, and then you'll be able to type in the code I'll give you. Are you ready?
Yes.
It's YAH. Like YAH. J as in John. T Z as in zoo. J as in John.
Third year.
JZ.
It's JT. Like John Tom.
JT, yeah.
ZJ like zoo John.
Yeah.
And then
Everybody's got
POX
red
like
heat.
Pox.
Sits in the sunshine.
P as in Paul, O as in Oscar, X as in X-ray. And then just hit enter.
Invalid receipt.
Oh, that doesn't sound right.
YAHJ.
No. You want to put it here. YAH
Yes.
JTZJ
Mhm.
POX. Wow, I've almost got that memorized now.
He wouldn't understand it. I would have said it.
Say, well, that's not a real letter. All right, I'm letting Irving in, Paul in, Chester in. Everybody's here. And
Not me.
Somebody has sound on.
Jim.
Or
there we
their
go.
mic.
He got it.
Okay,
Jim's always causing trouble.
here
Either
we go
one.
again.
Not me.
No, not me.
No, it's the bad Jim we're
Oh,
talking about.
Not me.
Oh, there's three of us?
That's me. Not me. Well, maybe.
All right, so did anybody get a chance to look at this second article, which I find extremely humorous? Pornhub pulls out of Florida. Immediately, VPN demand jumps by 1,150%.
Say that again. They pulled out of Florida.
Yeah, they pulled out of Florida. Pornhub.
Okay, you got Dumb and Dumber humor going, and I don't like that. Okay, sorry.
Sorry, I couldn't help myself. But it is the title on the registry.
Okay,
Is
they denied access to Pornhub
No.
in Florida.
No, they didn't. What they did in Florida, they passed a law of age verification.
Oh, I see.
And this is a real hassle because for them to do age verification by the government, they are tracking lots of information by the lowest bidder. And this is a privacy nightmare. This is something that Pornhub doesn't want to have anything to do with.
Right.
And so what's easier for them, and they've done this with like 17 states across the United States, is they're like, no, we're going to block any IP addresses coming from these states. And so they are no longer, they've washed their hands of that responsibility. Now, to be fair, all these porn sites have something on it saying, are you 18? Like you self-identify. And that's the extent of what they're going to do as far as tracking what their users are doing. And if the government's going to insist that they use a registry of the government to keep track of who's allowed to access their website, they've basically just said, no, we're not even going to make it available. So the way that you get around these things is you just behave as though you're in a different state.
Right.
And the only way to do that is with a VPN. And so VPN sales are skyrocketing right now. And everybody is becoming a VPN expert.
Okay, now I got it.
In Florida.
In Florida, that's right.
Where the average age is 102.
Yes. all his constituents.
You relating the age to the?
Well, that's
What-
Florida.
Well,
Florida's
it is
senior.
kind of funny when you think of your demographic that we're looking at right here. You guys are more knowledgeable in VPN security than, say, my children are. They don't live in a world where they need the VPN for anything. They grew up in Mexico as Mexicans. They could figure it out if for some reason they needed to act.
They wouldn't take them all.
But my point is that because of the TV situation that we've got going on, this expat community need to get at the Social Security site, need to be able to do banking, and you guys are actually very sophisticated VPN users
Or wanna
compared to
watch-
a
wanna watch
general populace.
Your show in Canada or whatever.
That's right.
If
That's
she
right.
turns
I
it
do
on
that
as soon
sometimes. Yeah.
she wants to see the her
DNS proxy.
DNS proxy. Well, yeah, okay.
You don't need a VPN if you use it.
Well, if
For the most part,
if
let you do
TV's your
something you
biggest
wanna be
concern,
private about.
yeah. But still, my other examples like Social Security, you need to behave as though you're in the United States.
DNS proxy, I think, does it.
Oh, does it do it specifically
I
for
think
the?
so.
Well, also
Because I know they also offer VPNs through DNS proxy.
also
They do.
Netflix is very important,
It's free.
Yeah,
and they have different programming.
yeah, exactly. And so this is a unique little bubble of. I mean, you may not be doing smart home stuff or some of this group sharing stuff, whatever it might be, but you guys are very aware of VPNs and how to buy one, how to use it, why it's functional. It's an interesting bubble we live in.
It is true.
So if you were living in Florida, you'd be like, what band?
What do you think of the fastest VPN?
What is the fastest?
No, that's the name of it.
Oh,
The fastest VPN.
I've had no experience with it. Hey, this is the
dirt
first
cheap,
time I've heard of it.
And it's
Is it government sponsored?
no, it's on Canary Islands. It's been
Okay.
checked, and it doesn't keep logs or any of that. And here it's slow. It's my PIA is extremely fast here.
Okay.
But in Tucson, the PIA is slow, and the fastest VPN, which is a lifetime for $20, is screaming fast, and it offers 4 different kinds of security protocols.
I'm really curious where this is going to end up. Because
Nowhere. I'm just
we're gonna end up with VPN nodes, kind of like the same way we right now have Tor nodes. If you're not familiar with the Onion router is a project to anonymize your traffic as you're out on the internet. It does this by making your traffic, shaping your traffic to exit out different parts of the internet intentionally, so that it can't be gathered to generate a geographical location of where you are, who you are. Now, the fallacy in this is that it's in a government's best interest to keep track of all of those nodes, and they do now. They have the processing power to know all the exit nodes. So if they do need to investigate somebody that's doing heinous stuff, they go to the Tor network, very similar to the way they'll go to the blockchain if they're looking for illegal transactions like from mafia and cartels and things of that nature, because these things are all public. The Tor network for anonymizing only anonymizes you with obscurity in the end. If you can track every place that traffic would come and go. I mean, if you have that ability, if you have that list,
Yeah.
then it's just a matter of processing power to correlate all that together to figure out what people are doing. That's essentially what's happening on the blockchain, even though it's raw data is hard for a human to interpret. As we've gotten more and more processing power, it's much easier to track these transactions, and that's because they're in public. There's nothing private about this information. And I wonder with VPNs if we're not going to see the same thing happen, that we're not going to see governments now can guess where your exit nodes are going to be on the internet, and now can track individuals because they monitor the VPN providers. They don't have to worry about what you're doing off of your living room. They just go out to the VPN
They
providers.
could monitor their sites, but they don't know who is going to them.
Well, isn't that just a piece of legislation? That's
It's-
just the
that's
law
what it
saying
is.
they have to give you their list of registered VPN users.
It all depends where they're located and whether or not they keep a list.
Well, all they have to do is pass the legislation saying they have to keep a list.
It depends where they're located at. Like the fastest VPN is on Canary Islands, and that's not anybody's.
Mhm.
They just do what they want, and that's, look it up.
Yeah, no.
It surprised me.
I'm not doubting what you're saying. I'm just saying that when you've siloed
But if-
all these.
If they pass legislation, it's not going to affect all of them. It's only going to.
Oh yeah, but what if they
Who's
make
this
it illegal to
thing?
use one that can't provide a list? I'm just saying that when you've siloed all these technologies into these very specific channels, then these channels are what's going to be regulated, what's going to be paid attention to.
Regulated
What's,
by the United States?
well, any government, actually any government or corporation, because it's going to be in their best interest to have that kind of data. I'm sorry, Irving, you've had your hand
Well,
up for a
I
while.
just in to what you're saying. So when you say that the blockchain is public,
Yeah.
I interpret a public domain for argument's sakes. If you own a house in Nevada, I can go onto the internet and find out who owns it, how much you paid, how much you sold for. That's public domain.
Yeah.
So is the blockchain similar that you can go in and see who owns it and how much they own?
The blockchain only lacks the applications to be able to see it. It's not obscure. It's the initial point when you get the wallet. And that's why we have regulations that if you're using an exchange, they require you to identify yourself. That front end has nothing to do with blockchain technology. It has everything to do with associating that number with a specific person. That number
But
is
it's not accessible like to the public.
well. What's accessible is all the transactions that happen from that number. And then it's, in this day and age, it's becoming trivial to associate that number with an individual or an organization. But everything's associated with that number. You can't move money into a wallet or out of a wallet without that number, if that makes sense.
But I can't monitor it as a public. I can't get on the internet and monitor it. can I?
Well, yeah, you could. You could download and people do it. People can download the blockchain. Last time I checked, it was almost 200 gigabytes. You could download it to your computer, and you could start searching through it and correlating. This is what the IRS does. They correlate all these transactions with numbers that are making them, so that they can follow a pattern of where these transactions are happening. And then the other side of that is, how do we identify the number? Who owns the number?
So is law enforcement actually set up to monitor this, to catch illegal money?
That's what's been happening in the IRS. That's their biggest new division, is monitoring the blockchain.
Well, that was legitimized.
Yeah. Well, and actually, I mean, I think if a government is concerned about losing whatever they're supposed to be getting from their people, then they would be monitoring it. They'd be monitoring seashells if we were using that for currency. What's unique about the blockchain is that they can't print more of it. They can't pull money out of it. I mean, they actually have to buy it to pull it out of
So why
circulation.
are there so many different blockchains? Probably hundreds by now, right?
Well, it's the thing that's making it such a confusing topic, is that people have used it for financial speculation. And so, I like my example of seashells. If we use seashells, well, if somebody decided they were worth something, there would be a market for them. And that's what's happened with all these cryptocurrencies is a bunch of people have gotten together and said, oh, they've got some kind of value. I mean, they're not worthless. We generated them. Maybe they're worth a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a penny. That's still worth something other than zero.
So I could start my own blockchain.
Yeah, absolutely. You could start your own cryptocurrency. That's what Elon Musk has just done with X. He's created his own cryptocurrency. And I wonder how that sits with us having him be the first lady.
Yeah,
that if
exactly.
him minting his
He's-
own money seems like a conflict of interest.
He's the one that wants to sell Bitcoin for Fort Knox gold.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
It create a Bitcoin thing, sell a bunch, and then go over there and get gold for it. And you can keep the Bitcoin now. I got the gold.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say about that. The gold to me has about as much much value as a Bitcoin. In the
it
grand
depends.
scheme of things, you can't eat it. There isn't there for all practical purposes. There is an infinite supply of it. Somebody has to go out and find it, but it's not like we're going to run out of it. I mean, for all practical purposes, we could treat oil the same way. We don't want to. That's not the
Diamonds.
future we
Diamonds
want.
are treated the same.
Diamonds are treated the same way.
They have
There's
a small industrial use, and so does gold.
Well, and we make diamonds that are practically better than natural diamonds and can look prettier, and we give them less value. So what are we really doing here? It doesn't make any sense. At least with Bitcoin, we've said this is all there is. There is no more than this. it's people. The value is in the work it's taken to mine them, and the work that's taken to mine, which is generating, hashing them out, and verifying them, is what's given the value to each one of them. If you took the work out of them, but you could stabilize it, it seems like it's a more natural direction for currency.
So because of its impact on the environment, electric, it's basically going to become like a mill of a penny. It's valueless. What's the cost of getting it would exceed the value.
I'm constantly
Shortly.
getting frustrated with, I mean, these are good. The way it's affected the financial market, I think it's a great argument for why are we even looking at Bitcoin. The way it affects our environment, the amount of electricity it takes, is a great reason to think about why are we looking at Bitcoin. I think those, and at the same time, it really convolutes the mechanics of what we're talking about. Because I think most people like yourself, I know you've been skeptical for years about this, but I also know you're the kind of person that would embrace the idea of a government not having control of your currency.
Or anything.
Right? I like they just can't mill more dollars and stick them out. They can't control inflation that way. It's one of the things that scares governments about Bitcoin. It's probably one of the reasons that we actually will get to a better understanding of this with this administration, because they've made it a priority. They've made a new way of looking at currency part of their agenda.
Also, part of my thinking is it's a guarantee to have corruption. It's a guarantee to have crime. It's just like the banks, Willie Sutton. People are going to be out there robbing these things.
Yeah, I don't know if I feel like that's such a powerful argument against Bitcoin, though. It could be a argument against capitalism. It could be because it breeds corruption. The profit incentive makes people do some of the most heinous stuff. But I don't know if that's actually an argument against Bitcoin. It's an argument against human nature. We will corrupt and exploit anything that's put in front of us.
Anything with a monetary value.
Yeah. But I like the idea that the government can't just print more dollar bills and stick them out into circulation. I like that they don't have any control over what an interest rate is when you're talking about Bitcoin.
But they do, because I read an interesting article about these countries that are separating themselves from the American dollar, and that's exactly what they're doing.
I think
They're
that
printing their own money.
shouldn't we, as Americans, we should be concerned about that. It's not in our best interest to have countries deciding the dollar is not their stable currency.
Well, we've become draconian in our, and we've weaponized it, and that's what's a major problem.
Oh, yeah, they wouldn't be looking for a different currency if they hadn't seen what the monetary funds do out there. It's but it's I think that the mechanics of Bitcoin are sound as far as the goal that it was trying to do. It was trying to keep government out of your wallet. Okay, that was the whole intention. And of course, that's going to lend itself to. I mean, if gangsters are going to accept it as
But if you
value,
take
gangsters are going to use it.
Yeah, but if you take the government out of it, you take the guarantee out of it.
But we took the guarantee out of it when we went from gold to God.
Well, we got FDIC, and everybody, the average person doesn't have enough money to exceed the limit of FDIC.
Well, yeah, and apparently it doesn't matter. Remember?
Well,
In fact, the worst, I think one of the worst examples of how deregulated money could help us is when the government stepped in and said, "Oh, it doesn't matter. There's a limit. We're gonna give this money back to all these owners and corporations." I don't know about individuals getting any of their money back, but investors sure got their money back.
I think somebody's waiting for the recommendations.
John's here ready to
No,
talk about.
Sure he is.
listen,
Have you got any Bitcoin opinions?
not really.
No.
Like, I know about it, but I don't have an opinion. Because I just consider that it's weird. You know? The way that considered like, well, it's not, there's no physical coin, right? So it's just digital. So how do you put a value?
Right, everybody's comparing it to they're deciding what that value is in exchange
because right
for
now
something
I
else.
see that there's a lot of like, new influencers or whatever that they make their own currency and they just do the basically pump and dump. They have a lot of people. I don't know how can you trust it. Kind of. Well, I'm guessing Bitcoin and the popular ones are okay, but what about all the new ones? How do you
Well, and
balance it out?
they all follow the same principle that the dollar has followed all along. It's a faith-based currency. The Bitcoin doesn't have any more value than you decide to give it, and you have to give it in a majority sense. There's got to be enough people out there interested in buying it for it to have a value.
Basically, supply and demand. So if people want it, it just goes up.
That's essentially what's been happening. And the last time I talked to Irving, he asked me how my Bitcoin was doing. I have never bought Bitcoin until after that conversation. I bought Bitcoin on Robinhood just recently. On Robinhood, and the difference.
Doing well, I could see. I mean,
yeah, it's been up and down recently, but like no big gains yet. But what is fascinating is it's not an investment. You're holding a currency. So I don't know how that looks on taxes. I know Robinhood can tell taxes that I had gains. But if it was an investment, I wouldn't have to pay anything on those gains until I cashed them out. Robinhood doesn't have a way to change. I have not found a way to get Bitcoin out other than to send it outside of Robinhood. I can use my Bitcoin in Robinhood to send and make it to another wallet somewhere, but I can't use it to do anything in Robinhood except move it around other cryptocurrencies. I can't take that value and turn it into stock or into cash in Robinhood.
You just turn it to another.
so why
coin,
Robinhood?
right?
It's strictly like a stock. You're just betting on.
It's very much like a stock. And I only did it because of our conversation. I'm like, I should really understand what's going on with this stuff. So what happens if I buy it through Robinhood? Well, it was very easy. I'm like, well, that was way too easy. And so then I start digging into the mechanics of what I've done. I'm like, oh, I don't have a wallet. They have a wallet. This is my investment in their wallet.
This is Mexican ownership trust fund.
But that's exactly what it is. Yeah,
We've always
I have a
said-
trust. I have a trust for the
You have a
Robinhood
Bitcoin trust.
That's
and
right.
and you only invest in a trust to the amount you are willing to never see again.
Oh well, that's my whole Robinhood account.
The only amount you put into Bitcoin is something that you never that you can do without.
I think there's a fallacy in that statement because all Bitcoin has done is go up.
And what goes up?
No,
must
it's had
come down.
incredible crashes at different times, and it's always come back twice as strong.
So,
And to other people's points, there's nothing there. There's nothing to legitimize that growth other than supply and demand.
I would only invest in something that has a guarantee somewhere. And I don't know if the guarantee is worth anything,
Well,
but
that's
I would want
because
to
our
have.
generation and associate, we don't think like young people do. They have a different.
We got sucked in by
brought into the
pyramid
world with this
schemes. and-
thought.
Yeah.
It's natural to them. They take it for granted.
Well,
To us, it's foreign and
So,
dangerous.
Scott, I got a question. No,
sorry, Irving.
but so is there a limit? What you can, because I know that for any cryptocurrency, they do what they do is they farm them. They can do them with graphic cards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're
So, and I've seen that they've done a lot of, that they usually do that in India and a lot, Asian countries. They are like tearing down those,
Well,
what they call pools.
it's
So
yeah.
is there a limit to what a pool can generate, or is it just a constant?
It depends how much electricity they can get.
Yeah, in the Bitcoin scheme of things, there is a limit to how many Bitcoins can be produced ever. The entire system is based on an algorithm that is forever limiting down to we cannot make any more
So there is
Bitcoins.
going to be a time that there's going to be a cap. It's not like
That's right.
We're going to print more money.
It's not possible. And the algorithm makes it more and more difficult to produce the next Bitcoin. So after a Bitcoin is produced, the following Bitcoin requires even more time, more hardware, more electricity. So, and that represents a commitment in the same vein as somebody that would go to a mine and mine gold. Right? Is like you're
Is
committing.
there a limited number of numbers or whatever it is in an address? Is there a limited amount
of
like, can it be 20 letters long or 100 letters long?
What-
Is the address? Is it limited?
Well, I believe it's not. I believe the way because the blockchain is a part of all this. And the blockchain is that thing that gets passed around and used for verification. It's the thing that has all the transactions since the beginning of this. So you can follow the blockchain all the way back to the very first Bitcoin that was conceived. But you can stick much more than just the Bitcoins on the blockchain. It's for a while there, it was popular, this idea of smart contracts. And you would be able to ingrain in the value the terms of whatever the contract is, and that would follow it. This is one of the reasons I had this idea for the Bill of Rights, to have ownership. I think that it's very possible for first creator rights to indefinitely be translated or transferred to second, third, and fourth creators. I say I made Snoopy and they want to have Snoopy in a rental car commercial. They could follow a blockchain back to who originally put it on the blockchain. I mean, I'm not Charles Schwartz, but let's say I was. Then there would be an indefinite, immutable record of who gets value for that character. Even if it's been sold, resold, you could trace it all the way back to the original rights holder. giving the power of first creator rights to be transferred.
What happens to this 750 million bucks if this is laying somewhere in a hard drive?
It changes the value of Bitcoin because it's unrecoverable. So the supply is smaller, but you've got the same demand.
Well, it's just lost. I mean, it's just
Yeah,
lost.
it's just
gone,
lost.
and if
it's
you
like
were holding Bitcoin, it went up just a little bit because
you,
there's
do,
less of it.
do you guys remember that Looney Tunes cartoon, Uncle Scrooge?
Yeah.
And he bought all the like 1965 quarters in the world, filled his swimming pool with all these quarters from that year until none of those quarters existed anymore, and all of a sudden one quarter was worth millions of dollars. But the difference is that value would stay. In the United States, you just start printing out more quarters until that value was lost again. But that's essentially what we're talking about. We're talking about limiting the supply with the same demand, so the price of the Bitcoin goes up. What is weird for all of us to get our head around is that the value of Bitcoin is going up because people want it, not because of anything it's done. It's like they didn't come out with a new computer. They don't have new colors for Windows. They don't have a new fashion design for the 2025 fashion season. There's nothing happening in the market. It's like a generation of people going, this is what money's going to be in the future. They want to
If I
hedge
had
against
a
the future.
Bitcoin, I traded it for 100 grand tomorrow, so would someone pay me for it?
There are exchange markets that would. It's complicated because of the value it's at. The government's requiring that when you're exchanging for money, they're going to come to the exchanges and ask who you exchanged it for. And so you're going to have to
pay taxes
provide.
on capital gains and things like that.
Yeah, they want to tax it. Yeah. Well, see you guys. I guess we don't get to recommendations today. Everybody's out of here, like they got something else to do or they have to pee. Everybody's gone.
We've got a previous engagement.
All right.
And one person sitting at home hungry.
We'll see you guys next week. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Scott.
Yeah, Irving, I hope that helps a bit. As I learn more. What's that?
We'll be checking in from the freezing cold of Edmonton, Alberta.
Oh, no.
Oh,
Well, enjoy. I've heard it's very cold there right now.
Yeah, it's cold in here.
Well, this has been the San Carlos Computer Club. I have been left sitting here with Irving. Not that that's a bad thing. And everyone else has abandoned us. Are we online with anybody? We've got Chester and Paul still with us. And I'm just going to say until next week, you guys tech on. And we'll do the same thing on Tuesday from Tequilas. We'll talk tech in Tequilas on Tuesday at 10. See you then. Tech on.
but really.